very much, Joe. Good afternoon to you, Roy.
Maybe.
If we just start with the usual, any injury news? Mitchell, McCarthy, MacArthur, Ferguson?
We've got three long-term injuries, which I mention every week. Of course, that's Connor Wickham, Wayne Hennessy and Nathan Ferguson. But in terms of the guys that have been playing, we've got three players injured. That's Joel Ward, Tyreek Mitchell, and unfortunately James Tompkins, who was training with us last week, has had a slight recurrence of his injury, so he's out as well. And Luka Milivojevic is suspended.
If we come on to Riedewald, who's been named Player of the Month, and it's really testament to the fact he's been given a chance and he's grabbed it with both hands, isn't it? Because it was a tough first couple of years for him at the club.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing persistence, really. We're really proud of him and delighted for him because he's always done well in training. He's never really let anybody down. It's just the fact that competition for places in the midfield has been given, or the places in midfield have been given to other people, but he's kept his head down and kept working. And I do think he's probably improved over that period of time as well, become more in tune with what we're trying to do and what the Premier League requires of a central midfield player. But it's all down to him, and it's all down to, as I say, his persistence and his determination, really, to make a go of it. And it's been wonderful his start to this season, and we can only hope now that he can keep it up for the rest of the season.
Fans obviously always want to see free-flowing attacking football, and they maybe haven't seen as much of Eberechi as they might have hoped for. Is it just a case of, easing him in gently to Premier League football?
No, once again, it's competition because, Jeff Schlupp isn't exactly anything other than an attacking and a very good attacking left-sided midfield player. So I've had to make choices there. I've not been able to fit both of them into the team together, especially with the former Andros Townsend on the other side of midfield. So it's been nothing more complicated than that. But again, like Jodo Riedewald in training, he's been excellent. He's done really, really well. He's impressed everybody, not only with his ability, but with his attitude and his professionalism. So his chance, I'm sure, will come very, very soon.
You talk about competition for places, and one area of the pitch where you have an embarrassment of riches is at centre-half. You've been in the game a long time and you've seen the game change and develop. Was there maybe a stage, 10, 20 years ago when ideally managers would always like to have had a settled back two, but the way the game is now, you're going to see rotation more and more often? Or would you ideally like to have a settled back two?
Well, we've not been able to have a settled back two, quite simply because, during the period of lockdown or the time when we came back after the lockdown, most of our centre-backs were injured, and that's how Czech Kouyaté ended up actually playing centre-back, because really in the previous two seasons he'd been playing as a central midfield player, but he had to move to the back because we didn't have any others to play. Lots on paper, lots of people at the club, but all injured. Now, of course, as you rightly say, we've got an abundance of riches because now they've all got fit again. It does make life quite difficult for me deciding which one should play, and I'm always fully conscious of the fact that whatever two I choose, there's at least two, probably three, not playing who could possibly do just as good a job, or probably do just as good a job. So the only thing I will say is that the record of injury of our centre-backs has not been great during my years at the club. And the other thing, of course, is they're all 30 to 35 years of age. So in actual fact, I don't think it hurts to have a few extra bodies at this moment in time, because I think we're going to need them all during the course of a long season.
Just a couple more from me on the topic of your opponents. Patrick Bamford, I think by his own admission, says he had a miserable time at Palace. But just describe how different a player he is now to the player he was then, and whether you're surprised at how quickly he's taken to Premier League football like a duck to water.
Well, I can't make comparisons between how he is now and how he was at Crystal Palace. I wasn't at Crystal Palace at the time and really had no way of following him. I don't even know if I was in the country when he was playing at Crystal Palace. So basically speaking, what I can say is that his performances for Leeds in helping them achieve promotion in the first hand, and the way he started this season, not only with his goals, but with his ability to lead the line and the work rate that he gives them up front as a centre forward, I'm full of admiration for what he's done. I'm very sure that everyone at Leeds is full of admiration for what he's done. and it will be our job tomorrow to try and keep him quiet. But we know that won't be easy because of the qualities he possesses.
And just one final one from me on your opposite number in the opposite dugout. The second longest serving manager, I suppose, in the Premier League, although I think you were probably in your 15th season of management when he started. Just talk to us about what you make of Marcelo Bielsa, his tactics, his style of management, and whether you study other managers and have and admire any sort of traits in him.
We always study other managers in a way, because before every football match, we're looking very, very carefully at how the team plays, how the team defends, how the team attacks, where their strengths are, where there are potential weaknesses, and what sort of style of play they are using for the best part. So one always feels going into a game that you've got some idea about the other manager because you've been studying his team for at least 1 week very closely, and even before that, because often when opponents are playing on the television, you're watching their games and making some sort of opinions, if you like, about what they do and what they're good at. Obviously, Marcelo is a man who's had a lot of success since coming to Leeds, and I think it was an inspired decision to take him on as manager, first because he's got them back into the Premiership, something which so many people have tried and not been able to do. And now, of course, he's started extremely well in the Premiership, and his team has played some outstandingly good games. I've never met him, unfortunately. Of course, I've always known about him, and I look forward to meeting him tomorrow. He's a person for whom I have very much respect, and I'm impressed by the type of football that Leeds are playing.
Thanks very much, Roy.
Pleasure.
Hi Roy, Amory from PLP. According to the stats, Crystal Palace has broken the deadlock in the first 15 minutes on 4 occasions. What are the chances of repeating that against Leeds?
These stats, they amuse me. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to answer, to be perfectly honest. I mean, is that true? I mean, and how long ago do we go back for that stat? Are we talking back into the 30s or 20s, or are we just talking recent times? And secondly, whatever I say, what difference will it make tomorrow? I mean, the fact is we either will play well and get off to a good start and score in the first 15 minutes, or we won't, and then we'll add another game to the stats that you've just quoted me. So I'm afraid, like a lot of stats, they really do mean nothing to me, and I don't see that it's got, for me, any relevance at all to the game tomorrow. We're going to be working hard with the players to make certain that the moment they step on the field and the moment the referee blows that whistle, we're 100% ready for everything. Everything for everything the Leeds can throw at us, and to make certain we bat that off, but also ready for everything we can throw at Leeds. And if that could help us score an early goal and maybe put a little bit of a dent in your statistic, I shall be delighted.
Absolutely. So then how much do you believe this match will come down to fine margins and whoever takes their chances?
Well, I think a lot of the matches so far with Leeds have not come down to fine margins. You know, there's been very, very convincing wins by a number of goals, and there's been the odd defeat by a number of goals. And then, of course, there's been these very, very exciting matches against Liverpool and Man City in particular, where it's been hell for leather, with both teams attacking, you know, full out every time they've got the ball, and what's more, taking chances that have come their way. So I think in a game between a team like ours and a team like theirs, quite a lot of things could happen tomorrow, and I really don't have a crystal ball, so I really don't know how it's going to go. All I do know is that we must be ready for the challenges that we know Leeds are going to present, and we must be even more ready, because it's a home game for us, to make certain that the challenges we present to them make life difficult.
You talk about the challenge. Sorry, Roy, go ahead.
No, I'm just...
I was going to say, you talk about the challenges then. We know that Leeds are a team that like to attack, but from your point of view, they are susceptible on the counter as well, aren't they?
Well, I think there's no way around that. I mean, the fact is, if you're going to get a lot of players forward, which will give you a chance to score goals, there's no question of that. There's always going to be the risk that against teams that have got quick players or who are very adept at using counter-attacking tactics, they're likely to cause you a few problems on the counter-attack. You know, there's no ways around that. That's the way you set your stall out. I will say one thing, I think Leeds, for a team that throw a lot of players forward, managed to get them back pretty quickly, in most instances, more quickly than many teams are able to do. So that is the way that Marcelo Bielsa and the Leeds team have set out to play. That is their style. Everyone knows what it is, but you've got to be good enough to deal with it.
And last one from me. There's been discussions this week about the idea of having 5 substitutions in the Premier League. How open are you to that idea?
I thought that had been decided. At the start of the season, I was asked my opinion about that. I discussed it with the club leadership, with Steve Parish and with Doug Friedman, and I believe they went to a meeting and we made our opinions felt, and I wasn't aware that there was going to be a second vote on the subject.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. I'll go to Alex Howell of BBC Sport.
Hi, Roy.
Hi. Well,
Just on front players, Michy Batshuayi has been unlucky having 3 goals ruled out in the last 3 games. Are you happy that he's in the position, or have you had a word with him about being offside for those chances?
no, because the offsides are so marginal. I don't know. The only time you have a word with your players about being offside is if they were straying offside, or if they were not getting back onside when balls were cleared and your next attack was ruined by them being so lazy they don't get back onside. The offside decisions against him have been so marginal. I mean, the one that could have settled the game for us against Brighton was hair fine, and even the one against Wolves was not, far off that. I think the only one I can really say was clear to me was an offside decision in free play, in open play without the help of VAR, was one of the goals against Fulham. So I think he's been unfortunate. I think he's getting in the right areas. I think he's shown once again what he is. That is someone who likes to score goals and someone who realises that to score goals, he's got to get in those positions. So I'm quite happy for the moment in seeing him ruled out or ruled offside for such very, very small margins, because I know that going forward, we'll be scoring those goals because the small margins will be on our side rather than on the opponent's side.
And how has Jordan Ayew been doing since he's joined back in training?
Yeah, good. We know we're fortunate. I think we got 4 very different types of forwards. If we count Wilf as a forward, they all have very different qualities. They all have very different qualities they can bring to the team, and of course they're all capable of playing with each other. There's not a question of this one can only play with that one. So I think if you're going to have 4 forwards vying for a place in the team, it's good they all have different qualities.
That's it from me. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, thanks, Alex. George, did you have a question? Yeah, George from PA.
Hi, Roy. You sort of you spoke about Gyro earlier. I guess with Luca out, there's a space next to him. Obviously, James McCarthy and James McArthur did start the season, so it's a nice choice, I guess, for you to have in terms of looking at who goes in there and goes up against Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, again, 2 players with different qualities, but both very, very good players in that central position, and both of them more than capable of stepping in and taking Luca's position, because Luca actually only regained his position when we played Fulham, and that was due to a McArthur injury. So it's very important, I think, for us to have McCarthy back in the fray, looking to pose questions for me whether I should choose him or whether I should choose McArthur or whether I should choose Jayden Riedeveldt. And on top of that, of course, there's still other players in our squad this year, which is probably, as I've said on so many occasions, the strongest and most varied that it's been for a long time in terms of giving me options. Because don't forget that Czech Kwiatek played the first 2 seasons at the club as a central midfield player, and actually only moved to the back when we had 4 central defenders all injured at the same time.
Yeah, I think Gary was one of them, wasn't he? I mean, looking at Gary Cahill, obviously last season he was so impressive, wasn't he, coming in? Come back into fitness the last couple of weeks. Is it just a case of sort of building him up now before you do think about putting him back in?
Well, he got back in and then got that serious injury. You know, when he was kicked during the latter part of the Brighton game, which of course meant that he was out for the first week. Wasn't even able to join us on the training field. He made a quicker recovery than any of us thought he would be able to, and was actually in training at the early part of the next week, i.e., before we played Fulham. But I decided to not thrust him into that game, and then I decided to keep faith with Scott Dan and Cheku Kiati, who've done so well against Fulham.
Cheers, Roy.
Pleasure.
Okay, that concludes the broadcast.